Thanks, Sherry. I appreciate your kind words, and I look forward to you saying the same thing at 11. And you'll say all the nice things about me once again. Hey, good morning, Flood family. This summer we have been journeying through the book of James. And we will continue that, and I'm going to invite Jill up to read our passage. And you might be wondering, like, ooh, why Jill? Well, I'm so glad you asked. During our Good Friday gathering, I received the amazing opportunity to hear her voice, her articulation, the way she just lives and speaks the word of God. And so let's bring our attention to James chapter 2, and Jill will share the passage. And if you're willing, if you're able, please stand.
This is from the book of James, chapter 2, verses 14 through 26. What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such a faith save them? Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, "Go in peace, keep warm and well fed," but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. But someone will say, "You have faith, I have deeds." Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by my deeds. You believe that there is one God? Good. Even the demons believe that and shudder. You foolish person, do you want evidence that faith without deeds is useless? Was not our father Abraham considered righteous for what he did when he offered his son Isaac on the altar? You see that his faith and his actions were working together, and his faith was made complete by what he did. And the scripture was fulfilled that says, Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness, and he was called God's friend. You see that a person is considered righteous by what they do, and not by faith alone. In the same way, was not Rahab the prostitute considered righteous for what she did when she gave lodging to the spies and sent them off in a different direction? As the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead. Thanks be to God for the truth and trustworthiness of his word.
Slide. I'm going to treat the next 30 minutes, slide. Thank you. I'm going to treat the next 30 minutes. You're like, what is happening? Where's she taking us? I am going to treat the next 30 minutes like the halftime show. And in halftime pep talk, that we are actually the football players, and we're not spectators, we're not fans, we're not in the audience, but we are the players, and there's the game to be played, and it's not about entertainment. And that our Sunday gatherings are to center us, to refocus us, to living a life of faith Monday through Sunday. And so that's how I'm going to portion our time together. And my hope is that we encounter God, that we confess our hindrances, and then we make faithful responses. And we live out our faith Monday through Saturday. So as we look at the book of James, in this chapter in particular, James is provoking us. He is calling us out. Some of you might like challenge. You're like, tell me what to do and I'll do it. Others of you are like, please stop. Please stop. And so wherever we are, James is encouraging us to live a life of faith. And it's not just a box to be checked off, but it's actually an invitation. A beautiful invitation. An invitation to trust God and to jump and to surrender to him. I spent over 12 years serving at Urban Life, and it is a ministry that serves the inner city, located in City Heights, primarily with urban youth. Slide. So every summer, we would take our students on an outdoor adventure. And in this one particular summer, we took our students to Lake Tahoe. And this is the week of roughing it, cooking meals by the fire and building character, right? And so we used every moment as an opportunity to connect with students, to bond, to ask them how are they doing at home, how's their relationship with God, and we would hike. And a particular hike came to mind. So we hiked around this beautiful, gorgeous lake, and just awestruck by God's beauty. And it's funny because often I'm a rather larger person, but when I'm out in nature, when I'm beside a beautiful body of water, I was like, I am small, and God is big, and He is grand, and He created all these things, and He's just flexing. Boom, beautiful lake. Boom, mountaintop. Like God's just flexing, and I love it. So we're hiking, and we're going to the top of this cliff, and it's roughly 2 stories up. Maybe 20 stories, I don't know, people exaggerate, I don't know how high up it is, but it's high up. And as we stood up there, we saw above some of the trees. We saw exactly across the lake. And you see, all this is happening while I am deadly afraid. I am afraid of heights. I am up high. I am afraid of heights. And the point wasn't just to, hey, let's get on this cliff top, let's just see things, but we invited our students to jump. Woohoo! See, sorry, we're on the other side. We're going back. Back some more. There we go. We're gonna stay here. And so we climb up on this cliff, and we're like, hey, jump over the cliff. Here's the thing. Some of our students can't swim, so then we pass out life vests. Right, we were prepared. We thought this through. There's no excuses here. We got you. Us leaders, we planned ahead. So we pass out life vests. We're up here. I'm a leader. I'm like, okay, live by faith. Do not be afraid. He is in me is greater than the world. Right, just all the verses I'm reciting, and I'm deadly afraid. And some of the people started jumping off. Some of our strong leaders, Anna H is over there, she's a strong leader and a strong swimmer. She's in the water, she's waiting for us, right? So students are popping off. Boop, 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 life of faith, jump. Life of faith, jump. Boop, boop, boop. And I know eventually it's gonna be my turn. Eventually I too will have to jump. So I'm like looking over the edge, right? I'm already afraid of heights. I'm looking over the edge and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to jump. People are looking at me. And we don't push. We do not push students over to jump because a life of faith doesn't involve pushing because God is a gentleman. God doesn't push us. He doesn't shove us. He doesn't force us to believe. And we agree, and that's how we lead our students. Hey, there's an opportunity for you to jump. There's an opportunity for you to trust that when you look down, that you are surrounded by others who are following God with you, that you're not alone in this. And so that's how we're setting it up. So I'm going over. I'm like, okay, backing up. And I was like, okay, I just got to do it. I mean, we're here. They're looking at me. I'm looking at them. We're looking at each other. These are all the people who can't jump, who are scared, who can't swim, right? All the suckers are left behind. I'm one of them. So I was like, okay. So now I go up, and I'm about to jump, and I chicken out, and I slip, and I fall, and I tumble over. Kid you not, I tumble over, and as I'm tumbling over, I hear people, one student in particular saying, I'm gonna jump after her. He can't swim, right? It's all the people who are scared, like he's not gonna jump after. But in my heart, I was like, ooh, I hear you. As I'm like, ooh, careening down, right? 2 stories, 20 stories, like 1 mile, I don't know, I was dropping. Plop, into the water, right? And I get up and get my head out of the water. I look around, and in my mind, I'm thrilled. I am alive. Hello. Look around, seeing people. Hey, I'm alive. You're alive? Wait, what's wrong? The look on their faces. They're like, Kathy, are you okay? I was like, I think I'm okay. Like, they're like, Kathy, are you good? I was like, what's wrong? They're like, you're bleeding a lot. I was like, I'm bleeding a lot. Yeah, apparently, going down, my face, the water, plop. Bloody nose is a high impact. Big girl, big water, kaboom, right? Just high impact, lots of blood. Wild, crazy. And so you might be thinking, well, Kathy, why are you sharing this story? This is kind of ridiculous. What's happening here? I say it because first, I just want to let you know that I am flawed and I'm fearful. Just off the bat, that I have not arrived. I'm flawed. I am fearful. 2, that I literally just land flat on my face. Like, that's real. That I just land straight on my face. And 3, God still uses me. And God used me then, God's using me now. that that's just who God is. Regardless if you fall over, you slip over, whatever's happening, that God's in the business of using us. And so we share this because, sometimes as we share with our students, and I share this with you now, a life with Jesus is an adventure. And it's beautiful, and it's scary, and it's fearful, and sometimes we chicken out, sometimes we slip, sometimes we fall, face flood, bloody nose and all, but that we're surrounded by a beautiful, supportive community, and that we're surrounded by God's warm embrace in his presence. And so our invitation today is to jump, right? It's to jump to what God has for us and to jump into surrender. And the reason that we can jump is because God got us. And he always has us. And he's whispering, hey, I'm faithful. Jump. Trust me. So some of you this morning, you might, I'm not sure where you're coming from, and maybe you're on the edge. Maybe you have not trusted this supportive community. Maybe you have not experienced God's overwhelming pursuit of you or his love. And maybe others of you are like, yeah, I'm about this life of adventure. And so my invitation is like, hey, let's go after it. Let's accept God's invitation and let's jump. So as we look in James is giving us a bigger vision of faith. He's saying that faith without works is dead. And so as we look at this, we're like, okay, is there two types of faith or two types of Christian camp? Is there like a Christian work camp and then a Christian faith camp? And does this contradict Paul? Because Paul says that we're saved by our faith and not by works, but James is saying that it's by our works. And so there's this great debate, and what do we do? What is happening? Okay, let's slow down. Context matters. So when Paul was writing that we're saved by faith, he was directing that message to Gentiles. The Gentiles are non-Jews, and they're new converts to Christianity. They were doing a lot of religious activities to get faith and to be saved. They're like, hey, if I do this, if I sacrifice this, if I do this, then I'll be loved, then I'll be accepted. I'm going to do this, then I'll be loved, then I'll be accepted. I do this, I'll be loved, I'll be accepted. Right, just round and round and round they're going. And Paul's like, hey, pause. You're saved by your belief in Jesus, not by all this other stuff, right? And so James, on the other hand, he was speaking to Jewish Christians, and they had the right thinking, but they weren't living out their faith. And so I heard it explained this way by a preacher. So imagine you're at a doctor's office, and you see the doctor, you're just like in the lobby, you're being super nosy, just like watching what's going on, right? And so you're in the doctor's office, you're being nosy, you're looking at what's going on, and somehow you hear what's going on in the rooms because the doctor's really loud. I don't know his story, but he's just really loud. And so he's telling the patient, hey, you gotta watch what you eat. You need to get your steps in and increase your steps. Let's do 10,000 a day, and then we want you to run, and you need to get after it, and that's how you'll feel better. And so you're like, okay, that's interesting, that's intense. And then he goes into this other room, and he's telling this other patient, hey, rest, relax, get off your feet. And you might be like, what's happening here? Two different patients, two different treatment plans. So just like James and Paul, two different treatment plans, two different things going on. We are really skilled at separating orthodoxy, our right thinking, our right belief, our right teaching. We're really good at separating our orthodoxy from our orthopraxy, the right action, the right practice, our functional theology. But if good theology doesn't result in radical change of life, then maybe it is bad theology. So James is writing to Jewish Christians, and these Jewish Christians, with their Jewish background, they have the Shema. The Shema is a central Jewish prayer, a declaration of faith that affirms the oneness of God. It is considered a core part of Jewish identity. The prayer begins with this verse. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. They worshipped one God, the same God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yet in verse 19, James compares these Jewish Christians to demons. Hello, shots fired. If you're being compared to a demon, like red flag. You got to notice something, right? So the demons acknowledge God exists. The demons have a dead faith in God. The demons believe that God exists, but they have not surrendered to a life with God. They have not jumped. We can't see someone's faith, but we can see their faith in action by their works. Belief in God is not enough. Good theology is not the end in itself, but it's a means to an end. So recently, during 4th of July, I was talking to one of my 25 maternal cousins. I come from a big family. I actually wrote down all my cousins' names. I was like, wow, there's a lot of us. And so it was July 4th, and we're sitting around and we're talking. And I'm not sure what your conversations are like with your family, but for us, we discussed, hey, are we heading into our midlife crisis? Like, is this the beginning? So we discussed, like, hey, is there a point in life when you have arrived? Is there a place where you get to the top of your profession, you're like, yeah, I've made it? Is that the goal? Is the goal to make more money? Is the goal to have a bigger home? I think about these things, right? I'm not a homeowner. Do I need to be a homeowner? Then have I arrived? Maybe we need to remodel our kitchen. We need to renovate it. I'm not sure what's going on, right? But what is the midlife? What is the crisis? And maybe it's the opposite. Maybe our life is completely mapped out. Maybe we're overcommitted, overplanned, over it. And maybe that's where we're at. So then in verse 15, James says, suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily bread. If one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm and well fed, but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? So if we say, keep warm, well fed, that statement shows that we acknowledge that there's a lack. Like we said that, hey, we are seeing that you are without. And we do nothing about it. It's just empty religious words. And so when I think about this, in 2025, what does that look like? Maybe it looks like saying thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. Just religious words. Because words are not enough. Talk is cheap. Living life of faith is not only demonstrated by going to Bible study, by going to our prayer meetings, by our church attendance. Our living life of faith is also demonstrated by real care, by real assistance to those in need. And so this reminds me of the parable of the Good Samaritan in Luke chapter 10. You might know this, you might not. Story time for us. There's the expert of the law. And he goes up to Jesus. He's like, hey, how do I inherit eternal life? And Jesus is like, well, love your neighbor as yourself. Like, love with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, all your strength. And there you go. And then expert of law, well, who's my neighbor? Jesus goes on and tells the story. There's this man traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho. And on this road, slide for the road, and on this road, he gets robbed. He gets beaten, and he gets left for dead. You might have heard this before. And a priest comes by, does nothing. Then a Levite comes by. Well, who's a Levite? Levi took care of the temple, also a worship leader. And so looked around, did nothing. And then we see a Samaritan come by. And people didn't like the Samaritan. They're a mixed race, different story for a different day. But people didn't like the Samaritan. But what did the Samaritan do? The Samaritan stopped, bandaged the wounds, oil, wine, put him on his donkey, got him off his feet, put him on his donkey, took him to the inn, said, hey, however long it takes, the whole duration, took care of it. And Jesus says, hey, the Samaritan, that was a good neighbor, so go and do likewise. So I was like, okay, go and do likewise. Well, okay, what did the Good Samaritan do? Took care of someone, bandaged the wounds, get him off his feet, onto the donkey, spent resources. And so as I thought about this, I was like, you know what? This reminds me of the micro approach to systemic change that is directly helping those around us. And you might be like, Kathy, we're talking about what's the micro approach to systemic change? Or you're like a sociologist, and you're like, yes, it's the micro approach to systemic change. The micro approach to systemic change and loving our neighbors looks like focusing on individual actions and individual interactions. It focuses on the relationship within a localized context. So it's pretty much like be a good friend As you are a good friend, you are part of the micro approach to systemic change. So we are called to feed the hungry. We are called to tutor the refugee and the immigrants, to buy backpacks, to be a kind neighbor, especially to those who don't look like us, right? Who are we having over for dinner? Does the person you have over look like you, or does it look like someone else, right? We're invited to these things. We're called to love our neighbors. And true love is holistic care. Because if we really love someone, we love everything about them. We love what they're going through, and we care about that. So you might be asking questions like, hey, how are you sleeping? Where are you sleeping? How are you eating? When was your last meal? How are you doing in school? How's your marriage? How are your parents? Right? These are ways we care for people. And also, true love and loving your neighbor involves macro systemic change. So as we hear in the story that this person is on this road and he's beaten, and that it happens frequently, as people say, this road's really dangerous, it's like in the middle of town, we have to ask ourselves, why are people constantly being hurt on this road? What's happening here? The macro approach to systemic change focuses on the larger scale of social structures, on the systems and on the institutions. So examples of this could look like crafting laws, advocating for policy change, organizing to address systemic things that impact the whole neighborhood, the whole community, and people groups. Another way to look at this is, let's say we have a bucket. Similar to the Good Samaritan, we see this bucket and we see that it's leaking. And you're like, that's not good. So then you patch the bucket. Leaking bucket, patch. Here's a leak, patch. The bucket's leaking, patch. Leaking bucket, patch. Eventually, if you or me and I were you, we'll be like, where is this water coming from? Who made this bucket? Do all buckets leak? Eventually, we want to get to the top of the bucket and turn off the faucet, turn off the water, right? Well, how do you get to the top of the bucket? Who has the power to turn off the faucet? What's happening here? What are the systemic issues that we need to address? So the question we're asking is, what are the broken systems we see around us? And living out the gospel intersects with that all that matters to God, because God loves the person and the place. So what will we do with our voice? What will we do with our privilege? And how will we advocate on the behalf of those who are hurting, those who are marginalized, those who are beaten and left on the side of the road? While my work at Urban Life focused mostly on micro systemic injustice, I offered direct care and support. Now, as I'm thinking about it, now at Flood, I'm asking God, how do you want to use me? Do I apply to join another board? Is that what meaningful work looks like? And this is a sincere question. I'm really thinking about like, hey, what does it look like for me, Kathy, to live out my faith? Because I understand that talk is cheap. And I also understand that I'm in a different position, and I'm in a different stage of life, and I'm have different influence. And so how do I leverage that for the kingdom? And for Flood Church, we are in a really amazing place. We have an opportunity, and there's actually many opportunities for us to have a macro approach to loving our neighbors and opening up. So we are now on the board of the Allied Gardens Grantville Community Council, Flood churches. Yeah. So this is a major win. This is creating opportunities for us to listen, to show up, and to care for our neighbors. Not yet. Also, Flood Church, we host the monthly Navajo Community Planning Group. They meet here in Flood Building. This is huge. It's a tangible way for us to demonstrate faith in action, to demonstrate, hey, we're a good neighbor. Our place is your place. Like, have that stuff happen here. And here, there's also space available on the board if you want to join. So if this piques your interest, let's have a conversation. So contact me, right? And so there's just great opportunity that's happening. And so as I think about this and as I think about where we're at as a church, I just am firmly reminded that God is inviting us to jump. and to surrender and to show up. And you might say, like, Kathy, I don't think you understand. It's just really hard to get by. I have young kids, and I work 80 hours a week, and I'm older, and my body is less able, or I'm younger, I'm just not able-bodied, or so like, I don't like manual labor, right? There's just a lot of different things going on. I get it. I was afraid of heights. I still am afraid of heights. I can't swim. I still can't swim. I was on top of the cliff, I'm leading others, and somehow I'm supposed to jump, and that's us, living this life together, surrounded by a supportive community, and we might get bloody nose, it might be ugly, right, all of that. Yet there's also easy on-ramps. Now the slide. The easy on-ramp is the community group of this area, they're doing a bubble event. And so we're invited to show up at the bubble event. It's on August 2nd from 2 to 4. Put in your calendars. And that's the easy on-ramp of being a good neighbor, is just to show up. In this event, in all areas of your life, your friendships, your neighbors, first thing is to show up, be a kind presence, be a person of peace. And so as I think about this, it's like, okay, there's more in this verse, there's more in this chapter. To talk about a living faith, like what about a living faith? Donut slide for the donut peaches, please. The other week, I was over at some Fluster's home. They invited me, so generous, so kind. And we had some donut peaches. Homegrown in someone's backyard. Delicious, 10 out of 10, highly recommend. If you haven't had some, I wish I had the kind of money, like donut peaches for everybody in the back. But as I was thinking about this, I was like, okay, how does this compare to living out our faith? And so when we look at the fruit tree, we think maybe it's actually about the fruit. But where does the power really come from? It actually comes from the roots. The power of the tree is within the tree, behind the barks. If you just look at the tree from the outside, you can't tell if it's alive or dead. It depends on the season, right? Depends on the month, depends on the year, depends on kind of the fruit. And so if there's an orchard with hundreds of trees, it's hard to tell which is a living tree, which is a dead tree. Same to be said about those who go to church, who are alive, who are dead. I don't know. Dead tree slide, please. So I asked myself, hey, Kathy, when were you a dead tree? That looks like a dead tree. It's actually a living tree. See, it looks so deceiving. So again, back at 4th of July, I was with my cousins, and I've been away for 14 summers. And I got this question, hey, Kathy, when are you moving back? And I'm humbled by that question. It just shows like they care about me, they want me around. But also, I was just really honest, and I said, I'm not going back until God calls me back. Because in Orange County, I am comfortable. In Orange County, that's where I come from, I go to work, I shop, I tithe, go to church, I play, I go to work, rinse, repeat, and I just see myself as a dead tree. I don't have to live out my life faithfully, just kind of faithfully, just kind of get by. And there's no need to trust God daily. And I get real tempted for an easy life. I get real tempted just to do what's convenient, which leads us to our last point. So James gives us, we want you to live out a life of faith. And what's the evidence of that? It's actually a partnership of faith and works, right? So that he gives us examples. Hey, Rahab and Abraham, they did that too. Rahab could have been really comfortable. She could have been really silent, but she noticed that there were Israel's spies. She let them in. She took a risk, right? And Abraham, he was considered a friend of God. He was counted as righteous because of how he lived out his faith. That he was willing to sacrifice his beloved son Isaac, who carried the wood to a death altar. Isaac's okay, I'm following my dad. I guess I'm gonna die. What is happening? Because he was grown, right? You gotta be big enough to carry the wood. So Isaac's old, and so he's like carrying the wood, willing to die. And God's like, you know what? We don't have to worry about this sacrifice. Us at Flood and Abraham back then, we could take heart. That Jesus already paid for that ultimate sacrifice. That Jesus has already carried that wood. That Jesus already left and died on the altar for us and rose again on our behalf. That we could take heart in that. So in closing, as we look at this passage, we receive the encouragement of this passage. That there's already fruit in a lot of your lives. There's evidence of your love for God and your love for others. and maybe receive this warning. Perhaps you have held on to your life too tightly, thinking that it belongs to you. And I invite you to jump, to serve, and to sacrifice. So as Tanner gets up here and plays some instrumental music background, I just want to encourage us to reflect. Are there patterns and thoughts, actions and inactions that you need to confess? Let's take a moment to reflect and let's confess together. Where are we at? What is God saying to us in this moment? We are going to read some confessions out loud. They'll pop up on the screen. The first confession is the confession of prioritizing our comfort. Let's read together out loud. God, we confess we often choose comfort over obedience. We avoid sacrifice and silence your call. Give us courage to follow you, even when it's hard. Next, let's confess how we overlook the vulnerable. Let's read it together. God, forgive us for turning away from those in need. We have been distracted, indifferent, and slow to act. Open our eyes and hearts to love as you love. And next, we will confess our self-righteousness. God, forgive us for trusting in our own righteousness. We have judged others and excused ourselves. Humble us and remind us that we are saved by grace and not by works. So Flood family, receive God's pardon. He has removed our sin as far as the east is from the west. And he invites us to go and do likewise. And so now, where might God be nudging you to serve? There are a lot of options. There are a lot of possibilities. When you came in, you received a bubble stick, a bubble wand. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to give some options and ways where we can live out our faith every day. And if it's something you're like, yo, I could do that, blow some bubbles. Yes, unlock that inner child. Blow some bubbles, all right? And so join with me in the blowing of bubbles. All right, so you're like, really, Kathy? Yes, really. Really, all right. Ooh. So perhaps, this is going to be the slide of all the options, please. So perhaps you're going to have some people over. Perhaps you're going to have some people over. You're like, yeah, I'm having some people over. Blow some bubbles. Perhaps you're like, hey, I'm not going to let everybody be by themselves. Blow some bubbles. You're like, hey, I'm going to buy a backpack. You know what? I already did. It was Amazon Prime Week. Blow some bubbles. All right. Maybe you want to tutor. Maybe you want to show up for Bridge of Hope. Build some bubbles. Perhaps you want to be part of ending human trafficking. Blow some bubbles. Perhaps you care about our unsheltered brothers and sisters. Blow some bubbles. How will you live out your faith? As you see the bubbles around you, may it remind you that you are not alone in this journey. You are not alone as a person who's living out faith, that you're surrounded by the beloved community and that we're called to this together. So blow some bubbles. And as you're like, man, I'm not ready to blow some bubbles. I really need to think, what is God really calling me, leading me to? That's amazing. I love that. So as we respond through worship, and as we respond through offering, as we respond with our prayer counselors, let's be reminded that Jesus already sacrificed and there's opportunity for us. And that he's blessed us and he asks us and reminds us that all that we have are his. And so as the ushers come up in a moment and as they pass out the offering bucket, what's your response to God? Let's continue to worship together.